Back here on the White House Brief Rundown, I'm your host, Paul Westcott, and on the phone with us, coming up here, is going to be Tom Ridge. And this guy, talk about somebody who knows what threats are to the United States, abroad, around the world. He was the first Homeland Security Secretary under George W. Bush. And here we go, right now. On the phone with us now, former governor of Pennsylvania and the first Secretary of Homeland Security, Tom Ridge, also author of the book, The Test of Our Times, America Under Siege, and How We Can Be Safe Again. Governor, thank you for joining us.
Great to join you. Thank you.
Now, President Obama officially announcing Tuesday the deployment of 30,000 additional troops to Afghanistan. What are your thoughts on this buildup?
Well, first of all, I don't think President Obama is ever going to give a bad speech. I mean, he's a good speech giver. I frankly think the speech, however, sent mixed signals. There was a little bit in his speech for everybody in the country and for many people around the world. For Nancy Pelosi and Senator Reid, his allies in the House and in the Senate, it was, he articulated a way out of the war. I mean, he in fact said we need to end the war successfully. So he threw something to the Democrats, but I think you have to give him credit. General McChrystal wanted 30-plus thousand troops. He's going to get them. The president is going to accelerate them, try to get them there as quickly as possible. I think that's still logistically a real challenge, but that's going to happen. I'm not comfortable with the timetable in 18 months because it's going to take at least a half a year to get the additional 30,000 in. Then they'll only have a year to work their magic, that is to deal with the Al-Qaeda as well as begin the training. But in balance, I think it is a good speech and a good way ahead. In balance, it's not what the president says today. It's what he's going to do 18 months from now.
Sure. And, President Obama, just like President Bush, drew a line between al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and America's domestic security. Would you agree with that assessment?
100%. I think it's interesting after President Obama spent quite a bit of time during the course of the campaign pummeling President Bush and President Bush's policy. He understands now that he's commander-in-chief that his interpretation of our national interest and President Bush's interpretation of our national
right.
interest are truly aligned.
Yeah, and you know what? Turning now to the September 11th trials, the alleged masterminds of 9/11 set to face trial in New York City. Do you think this is the right move?
Absolutely not. One of the challenges I think Americans need to appreciate and understand is that the world does hold us to a higher level of conduct, a higher standard, because we are unique, and we frankly been running around the world for many decades telling the world that we're unique, and we have this Constitution, and we do have a rule of law, and we do have something called due process. But our due process protections are designed for those arrested in our criminal justice system, designed for those who are citizens or those who are here legally. These individuals are not citizens. They are not here legally. They're not entitled to the full protection of our law. I think a military tribunal is just fine. Give them counsel. Due process is a right to be heard before an impartial adjudicators. So I think it's a wrong-headed decision. I think the Attorney General is flat wrong taken there. I think it creates all kinds of problems, both in terms of prosecution, finding an impartial jury, security concerns for the city. The tribunal at Guantanamo would have been just fine and would have met our commitment to give them fair due process.
Sure, and it's been more than 8 years since the 9/11 attacks. Do you think Americans and maybe even some of our leadership in Washington have become complacent with the state of security in America?
Well, I don't think we have the same sense of urgency as we've had right after 9/11. I mean, you think in terms of what has happened just in the past couple of months. Remember the two pilots who were either working in their laptops, sleeping, but it took a while for the air traffic controller to bother notifying anybody. But my goodness, you got an airplane that's gone off route and not responding. You say to yourself, well, why wouldn't they alert somebody sooner than they did? You've got the whole Fort Hood incident where you've got the FBI in one area and not communicating with the FBI in another, and you say, well, could have it been avoided if they'd been willing to connect the dots? You still have unfinished business. A lot of things that were priorities for the Congress of the United States right after 9/11 remains to be done. And so I think we lost our sense of urgency, and I think it's unfortunate. One of the reasons I frankly wrote the book is to remind people that our enemies are strategic actors. They're patient. They don't set their wristwatches like we do. We're going to be at this for a while, and we should never let down our guard.
Sure. Is there a specific area, either domestically or overseas, where President Obama should be dead set focused? Should it be the Al-Qaeda, in the region between Pakistan and Afghanistan, or should it be more domestic, ports, airports type
Well,
things?
I think he's got to be concerned about both. I mean, I think Homeland Security, I've always felt, was a national mission. And what we need to understand is that our borders, the borders of the United States of America, should be the last line of defense, not the first. So you've got to push. Any soldier will tell you like to push your perimeter out as far as you can. And so I think he needs to be concerned about Afghanistan and Helmand Province and the area next to Pakistan. Of course, he's got Iran waiting in the wings. There's a problem that's going to have to deal with in the next 60 to 90 days in a way a little bit different than we've dealt with it before. So you push your borders out as far as you can. And so I think the President and the Congress have to be mindful of the responsibilities to make us more secure in both arenas.
In your book, you write about the challenges of being the first Homeland Security Secretary, taking on 22 agencies that, as you mentioned, they don't always play well together. Day to day, did it feel, I think that's an understatement, but day to day, did it really feel as if you could, you call it the most thankless yet rewarding job in America? Did
Absolutely.
It feel like that?
It was. I mean, I think the men and women that we were able to pull together to staff the headquarters, combined with a renewed sense of mission. I mean, there are a lot of institutional challenges, and there still are for Secretary Napolitano. But I think in the post-9/11 world, hopefully there's much greater respect for the men and women at the borders and at the airports and for our military and for our Secret Service and for our Coast Guard. So I think the sense of mission helped unify us early on, but I still think that the integration, particularly of the technology and information sharing. I mean, that's one of the sad revelations about Fort Hood. There's always been this clash of cultures between the intelligence community and the law enforcement community, and they clashed with the Department of Homeland Security. They have an old mindset. Well, we'll share the information when we think you need to know it. Well, it looks like some people had plenty of information about Major Hassan, and there were plenty of people that need to know it, but they didn't share. So we've got to go from a culture from need to know to need to share, and obviously we haven't overcome that obstacle yet either.
Sure, and just lastly here, since you mentioned it, the attack at Fort Hood, would you consider that the first domestic terrorist attack under the Obama administration?
I would consider it a terrorist attack without a doubt, without a question.
Secretary Ridge, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, great having the conversation with you. Best wishes to you.
There's former Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge speaking with us here on the White House Brief Rundown. And if you want more of this news, more good stuff like this interview, check us out online at allpoliticsradio.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and if you want to join the conversation, email us, whitehousebrief@iheartradio.com.